Gents, let's go up and down the Premier League table now ahead of match week 7. Let's preview it, score picks. You know the drill. Lads, focusing at the top first. Wolverhampton Wanderers hosting Manchester City. Nick Mendola. City made hard work of it last week against Forest with that red card to Rodri. Really unnecessary red card to Rodri that Pep was angry about, and rightly so. Anything other than a Man City win here? Because Wolves, again, we talked about them a lot, playing well, but they're not getting the results either. So everything points to a big City win.
Yeah, it sure does. And it's just a matter of Man City's health here. What are we going to see? When are they going to run out of gas? They won't run out of gas for the whole season, but a blip is inevitable. Even for a team as good as they are, I don't think it's this week, but there's something worth monitoring, especially with an extra day's rest for Wolves coming out of the Cup. Who also rested Neto and a couple other guys for that match at Ipswich Town, which they lost.
Yeah, and they were 2-0 up and lost 3-2. So not exactly ideal for Gary O'Neill's side. I'm intrigued with Man City to see with Rodri out. Is it Calvin Phillips? Is it Kovacic? Who's kind of going to be filling that huge Rodri-sized hole in midfield? Going to be interesting. It's not like they haven't got options, though, because they do have that luxury of having one of the best squads in the world, if not ever. Nick, talking about Bournemouth Arsenal as well. That's interesting to me because Bournemouth are maybe a team that aren't getting the points on the board they deserve. Played really well against Brighton last time out and lost, but Arsenal just feels like this is a good comeback game for them after the disappointment of drawing at home against Tottenham. It felt like a bit of a defeat for the Gunners, but what are your thoughts on this one on the South Coast?
Yeah, I can kind of defer a little bit. I'm just done picking against Arsenal. They're a very difficult team to predict. Saka, I don't want to say he keeps getting better because when he arrived on the scene, he was already at such a high level, but the drop-offs have just been minimal. And even when he's not at his best, he's finding a way to get those goals and assists. It's the opposite of Chelsea going on in Bukayo Saka. So, I find it hard to pick against Arsenal.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Andy, Tottenham against Liverpool. We talked about it on the show this week quite a bit. Entertainment, right, is the key word around this game. What are your thoughts and predictions for this one?
Yeah, it's a big challenge for Spurs. Like obviously you can say they passed the test of Arsenal last week, but it's still a young team. It's still a team that's developing in a lot of ways. You have a little bit more of a finished product, at least in some of the key areas up top and in the back for Liverpool. And so I'm thinking about out wide how Spurs defend the likes of Mohamed Salah and Luis Diaz, who are both in really good form this season. Not to say, Arsenal fans, that Saka and Martinelli are not. But again, these are more of the finished product as elite type wingers and players that really know how to take advantage of the smallest opportunity and force mistakes and errors in the back. And the way that Spurs allow so much space in behind, and they ask Christian Romero and Mickey van de Ven to defend that space in the open field, it does set up pretty well, I think, for Liverpool and for Salah to get isolated one-on-one against the very, 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 very big Mickey van de Ven in open space. And once he starts changing direction and forcing him to turn, it can be a little bit problematic for Tottenham. But I do think this is a very kind of back-and-forth game once again. And I'll stick with the 2-2 prediction, same as they had last week against Arsenal. The thing I can guarantee, though, it will be entertaining. It will be wide open. You won't want to miss this one.
Yeah, you really won't. And I'm looking forward to the battle in midfield. Basuma and Sarr have been excellent in just winning the ball back, getting it to Maddison, Son, Kulusevski to do the damage. So that midfield battle, we know the balance has been off for Liverpool a little bit. I think there's going to be a lot of transitions there. And whoever kind of can control the tempo of the game and get the ball to their attacking talents is obviously, I think, going to come out on top in this one. So going to be goals galore in North London for sure. Nick, Man United against Crystal Palace. United had a bit of a bounce back with that win away at Burnley. Hard fought, wasn't pretty, got the job done. But then they beat Palace in League Cup action midweek. We had Mason Mount come back from injury. Amrabat came in and played for United, which was a huge deal for him to be back fit and ready. And him and Casemiro in midfield look like they'll be quite the duo to break down this season. Kind of a glimmer of hope for Man United in this one and for the rest of the season.
Yeah, more than a glimmer, and mostly because it's the way they got it done. Palace was much changed as well. They got rolled over, though. This wasn't even particularly close. You know that Eric Ten Hag went into that game saying, I'm going to keep Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford on the bench for as long as I can. And it became clear within 30 minutes that as long as he can was the entire game. So they should be fresh. And I like also for someone like Rashford, not that he necessarily needs it, but that sort of instinctive bit that kicks in when a couple young guys score. And you think to yourself, oh, well, I hope the manager doesn't like them right now. I got to go get something done. And Fernandes has also quietly been MVP caliber for most of his time there, honestly, and seems to have taken the captain's band with some real aplomb. So, yeah, I find a hard time finding a Palace win in here.
Yeah, I think United all the way. And shout out to Johnny Evans as well, saying that all dreams can come true. That was great to see him come back with that assist. And just fill in admirably when Man United needed him. So really nice story there for Evans being back at United at this stage of his career. Aston Villa against Brighton. Going to go for a draw. And this one, two very evenly matched teams in Europe, kind of doing that whole Thursday, Sunday grind thing. And Villa have been impressive. Big win at Chelsea. Brighton weren't great against Bournemouth. De Zerbi said that was one of the worst displays I've seen since I've been here. But they got the job done and won 3-1 with Matoma off the bench. Fatty playing great off the bench as well. So, Andy, come in here, but I feel like this is going to be a fun one. But these are two very, very good teams to watch.
Yeah, I'll tell you why it's going to be fun. Both of these teams right now currently outperforming the following teams in terms of expected goals. Chelsea, even though they're not finishing, still outperforming them in expected goals. Arsenal, who we give all of the credit for the way that they play. Tottenham and Manchester United, all below both of these sides. So they have hit the ground running to start the season, picked up where they left off last season when a lot of people asked, the conversation around both these teams was, can they continue it? Can they replicate what they did last season? Yeah, they can.
Yeah, arguably they're even stronger, right? And especially in Brighton's case, that's crazy to think about the players they lost this summer and just what a job they're doing down there, and Villa as well. So both these teams have to think they'll be in the top 6 or right around it in that conversation when all is said and done this season. Fulham against Chelsea, we talked about that on the show this week. Andy and Nick went for a narrow win for Chelsea, just about. I went for a draw. Don't see a lot of goals in this game. I think Chelsea need this win really, really badly just to kind of get momentum going for Pochettino. Yes, they've got a lot of injuries, but they should really have enough quality to get past Fulham. But Fulham are a horrible team to play against. And Derby Day there in West London. It's going to be a tight one. So that'll be an intriguing game to watch. And Nick Mendola, Newcastle against Burnley. I mean, Newcastle going to score 9 against this newly promoted team this week?
No, I don't think so. Because of the questions that are going to be asked of their personnel following a midweek cup clash with Man City. But Burnley was able to rest their players. I think they're going to give a real challenge to the Magpies. But at this point in time, I've bought in enough to know that I don't think they have enough against a Newcastle team that is really pushing each other for playing time.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I think an easy home win there. It's pretty incredible to see Newcastle win 8-0 against Sheffield United. Poor Sheffield United, but I think it just really showed the golfing class of the 3 newly promoted teams not getting a win so far this season between the 3 of them. Burnley, Sheffield United, and Luton have really, really struggled. And talking about Sheffield United, they travel to West Ham this weekend, Andy. Tough place to go, especially after that battering. It'd be interesting to see the reaction from the Blades and how many changes Paul Heckingbottom makes. But playing against a team like West Ham who are just stodgy and, again, really horrible to play against, not exactly the game you want.
No, I'm going to go cross sport here and make a little analogy for you guys. My Chiefs last week got to play the Chicago Bears, now the whipping boys of the NFL, the get-right team of the NFL, if you will, and they blew them out. I think that's kind of what Sheffield United might become for the Premier League this season, and it couldn't come at a better time for West Ham now on the back of a couple losses in a row in the league and just needing, as you say, Joe, to get a little bit of positive momentum and vibes going around the club, especially with having to balance Europa League and everything in there. It won't be 8-0, but West Ham will score at least a couple in this one and kind of get themselves back on track.
All eyes on James Ward-Prowse to see if he can get matching and even overtake David Beckham's all-time Premier League free kick record because he's had a great start to life with the Hammers. Nottingham Forest against Brentford. That's a hard one to call, actually. I'm kind of worried about Brentford a little bit with some of the injuries, the lack of cover they have around the squad. I think I mentioned to you guys at the start of the season, I thought they might struggle a little bit, but losing Rico Henry, Ben Mee recently to injury, Sharda now as well. Obviously, Tony's out until January at least, and there's reports about his future. So I don't know. It seems like Forest are in a slightly better position. So I'm going to go for a home win in that one. And I think Steve Cooper's doing a great job just to take their project onto the next level. We mentioned it before. Great deadline day additions. They did some really good business and was more quality over quantity this time in the transfer window, even though they still signed a boatload of players. And Nick Mendola, take us home. Everton against Luton Town. Relegation scrap. Relegation 6-pointer maybe, but Everton looked really good against Brentford in that big win. Luton looked good against Wolves. Couldn't get their first win, but they got their first point ever in the Premier League. Do we see an away win in this one at Goodison?
Ooh, it might happen. The Hatters have 2 massive games in 5 days. They're going to play Everton and Burnley. Their whole season will feel potentially sorted or alive come next Tuesday at around 6 o'clock. And I think it's going to start on a sour note. I like Everton here.
Yeah, an interesting fact for everyone. They're called the Hatters because Luton was famous for making hats back in the day, the town of Luton. So just wanted to who would have guessed that, right? But just wanted to let everybody know that is what I learned this week when I was researching Luton Town.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.